Okay, you're welcome. Let me know if you can hear me. Hello, everyone. Let me know if you can hear me. Am I audible now? Welcome, Gigi. Gigi, don't leave. Gigi. Yes, I'm a doctor. I'm from Nigeria. Hope you can hear me now. Can you hear me now? Let me know in the chats. So, where are you watching from? Gigi. Where are you watching from? Thank you for joining in. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the chat. Hello, everyone. Yeah, sometimes you need to make some adjustments, lighting, and all. So some days ago, we tried talking about hypertension or high blood pressure, and there was this challenge with network. I don't know if that has happened to you. If you are a YouTuber and you get on a live stream, sometimes you just notice that the screen uh, does not display the charts and some other features on the stream normally. Talking about the mic, the video icon, the beauty icon, the lights. These are features. They're available now. I can see them. But it seems if one decides to leave the page, this particular screen I'm looking at, there seems to be a change when one returns. Have you experienced that before? Where you cannot just find the audio icon, you can't find the video and other things, even the chat. So it happened that I couldn't continue because I couldn't see any chat. And I tried twice or even up to three times, yet I couldn't get to see any chat. So imagine, even though I may not be able to identify who is present on the live now, and then hopefully very soon YouTube will help us to be able to see who has joined. So if you are joining in, let me know where you are joining from. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the chat. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. So imagine being on this live and trying to relate with the community and welcome new members, and I'm not able to see your chats or your messages. You know, you know what that means. It's actually breaks communication. Okay, because communication really should be a two-way thing or two or more ways. All right. So let me know where you're watching from. I'm glad to have you here. Where are you watching from? Okay, so the update is that I was trying to let you know that we'll be running the test of the stream, but doing the talk on high blood pressure. But somehow, not been able to do that. But I could see that a number of people have been watching the video on the natural remedies for arthritis. So if you have any question, you can ask relating to arthritis or even high blood pressure. All right. So it's a global body talking about high blood pressure. Interestingly, on this side, maybe 6 to 8 in 10 adults actually have high blood pressure. Okay, you watching may have at least one person that you know that is dealing with high blood pressure. So, what do we need to know? One very important thing is that there is a projection that more people are likely going to develop hypertension in decades to come. So, what should we be doing to prevent developing hypertension? And if you already have a diagnosis of hypertension, what are the things you should be doing to manage the condition and even to see how much of control that you can have? And that's the goal of your doctor, to ensure that your readings are actually within normal range. Okay, so let me know in the chat the last time you had your blood pressure check and what reading it was. What was the reading actually? Okay. I believe you can hear me now. Gigi, are you still there? I believe you can hear me. So Gigi, I'll pin your message. All right, so there was a time we looked at the different risk factors for developing hypertension. We talked about what hypertension is, and then what risk factors uh, are there for developing hypertension. Okay, including genetics. We talked about lifestyle. We talked about the non-modifiable factors, things that we cannot change that may actually bring about elevation of blood pressure. And one is genetics. The fact that it can be transferred from one person in the family to another, generation, it can be passed. So that is very important. It's not something that you can change, but that one person in a particular family or generation develops hypertension does not automatically mean that next generation will develop hypertension. So that needs to be clear. So there's a genetic factor, there's a race factor. That's talking about Africans, Black Americans, more. And then there is the okay, the way to explain that is that uh, Africans, blacks generally tend to retain salt more. And when salt is retained, especially sodium salt, the water is retained, there's increase in blood pressure. So the tendency for you, if you're African, and whether you are even American, whichever part of the world you are in, there are several factors that may trigger elevation of blood pressure. And you need to understand that it's not just one factor. Sometimes people talk about, somebody says, "Oh, doctor, I'm not stressed. I've not been stressed. I've been resting." Of course, stress can be a factor to developing hypertension. Some hormones can be secreted, the stress hormones, and this can actually cause elevation of blood pressure. In fact, it can even be responsible for developing diabetes and other conditions. So, stress is a factor, but it is not the only factor that be responsible for elevation of blood pressure. So it's important to note this because a lot of people talk about not being stressed, and why elevation of blood pressure. So that's not the only cause. I've mentioned genetics, I've talked about the race, then age factor. As we increase in age, as we grow, there's a tendency to have increase in blood pressure. Okay, so that's why there's a difference between um, blood pressure in ages. When you look at the blood pressure of a younger person, uh, normally you expect that it's slower than that in an older person. But these days, we are beginning to see more young people developing hypertension. And there are so many reasons for that. Apart from genetics, I've talked about the racial factor. I've talked about the age factor. But why somebody that is young? The question is, why would someone in their 20s or in their 30s develop hypertension? That's one question that someone may be asking. And that's possible because if an individual has a strong positive family history of hypertension, then there's a tendency for such a person to develop hypertension. So what I mean is this: if one of the parents or the two parents have hypertension, or they have generations before, that is talking about grandparents, maybe you now talk about uncles, aunties, sister, brother, so there are strong factor. It's a strong factor. It's a strong genetic factor for developing hypertension. Thank you, the 5K fashion store. Wow, good to have you here. Thank you for joining in. Please confirm that you can hear me clearly. Remember to give this live a thumbs up. Thank you for joining in. Thank you, the 5K fashion store. It's good to have you here. Thank you. It's confirmed that you can hear me. So let's quickly talk about this briefly, then I'll mention some other things. We'll still go into the details on some other sessions. Okay. Thank you, the 5K fashion store. Thank you for joining in. Remember to give this live a like, okay, so that more people can get to know that we are live. Let me know where you're watching from. Thank you for joining in. Okay, so I was talking about risk factors for developing hypertension. So in the young, for example, there may be some other factors apart from the genetic factor, the family history. There is the lifestyle factor. Okay, so if an individual who has those strong positive factors, uh, also engages in diet that encourages inflammation in the system, talking about fries, a lot of processed foods, talking about uh, taking diet that is not balanced, not taking fruits and vegetables, you know, loading with starch, salty foods, and all. This also puts the individual at increased risk of developing hypertension. Okay. So apart from that, inactivity is another cause. Some people are engaging in such a career business that does not encourage movement. So, and God created us for movement. So if you are not moving, then you have a risk factor, a risk of becoming overweight, and then the risk of even becoming obese, which are strong factors for developing cardiovascular diseases. Okay, so those are some of the factors responsible. But in a young person, one area we usually consider as a doctor, one area we consider is there anything ongoing in the body of this individual, young person, that may actually be the cause of the uh, the the cause of the elevation in blood pressure or hypertension. For example, if an individual has what we call polycystic kidneys, kidneys more than normally there should be two, a pair of kidneys, but if the individual has more than two kidneys, then there's a tendency or has cyst collection of fluid um, in the kidney, one or two or both kidneys, then such an individual has a tendency to develop hypertension. Other conditions, they are hormonal, uh, endocrine causes, abnormal organ function, adrenals, even an individual with diabetes, individual with high cholesterol levels, individuals with such conditions are also at risk of developing hypertension. So why should we be talking about this? Now, apart from the fact that there are predictions that there will be an increase in the number of people who will be diagnosed with hypertension, we need to look at not just the condition itself, but the uh, complications that can arise from not knowing. In fact, in America, in the US for now, they say there are like half of the adult population have a diagnosis of hypertension. Half. And maybe half of this same number does not, they don't even know that they have it because they've not been diagnosed. And those who have been diagnosed, uh, some are not having the necessary management of the blood pressure. So there's a risk of developing complications. All right. Let me know if you can still hear me. So there's a risk of developing complications, and um, for this side, as I mentioned earlier, out of 10, you can see 6 to 8 adults sometimes with hypertension. Some have not even been diagnosed, and those that have been diagnosed uh, maybe do not have proper treatment. And for those that have been placed on specific medications, maybe they have poor management of their blood pressure. Because management basically involves both your doctor and and your even the individual affected and other supports that the individual may require. Okay, talking about uh, a physiotherapist, dietitian, um, even a mental health expert. For some people, when they get that diagnosis, it affects their mental health, and then, in fact, the ability to even cope with the condition, managing the condition itself. It becomes devastating to them, and so such people may benefit from counseling, uh, proper monitoring, and the facts, even family support, very important. Okay, so if an individual does not do the needful, then there's a tendency to have complications. Okay, so we should be talking about this. You should be checking. Um, you should be checking regularly your blood pressure. All right. It's not a death sentence, even if you have elevated blood pressure. It is when nothing is done about it. When nothing is done, and then that complications can arise, and it can actually lead to loss, all kind of loss. Well, we should be doing the needful. So what should we be doing? These are things that we'll be talking about regularly, and it's very important that we talk about them. The more we talk about, the better for us. We get ourselves aware and then do the needful. I usually say this, that God has his own part, and he will definitely do his part, and he has done his part. He will always do his part. But we, as humans, we must be doing our part. Um, be responsible, be proactive, be committed to the gift of this vessel that God has given you and I. All right. So that's just part of the information. So if you are yet to watch the video on arthritis, just check it out. You know, some people have asked, these natural remedies, do they really work for arthritis? Okay, so check it out. And then, do you love parfait? You know, parfait has many benefits. I am not sure. I think I did a video, a live session where I talked about uh, or post on parfait. Okay, sometimes moderation is key, but sometimes some people um, take much of this, and it's still healthy compared to some other forms of snacking or diet. So, what else? Just stay tuned. There will be many more updates for you and I. Okay, yes, for us now as a community. So we welcoming those who are joining, just newly joining the uh, channel, subscribing, or if you are joining the membership, okay, you're welcome. And it keeps getting better. All right, so let me know if you have any area, any particular area of interest, knowledge that you would like to know, so I can provide you with professional um, information. You know, sometimes I share from clinical practice, I share some of my experiences, and you know, it's a lot trying to help people when it comes to education. You know, entertainment is good, and we need, you know, to be entertained, to enjoy ourselves, to relax. Very good, but we must also be educating ourselves. We must be well informed. We must be doing the needful, applying the knowledge, right knowledge that we receive the right ways, and of course we should be getting the results appropriately. All right. So thank you for tuning in, everyone who was able to tune in at this time. And if you are watching the replay, then let me know what you think in the comments. All right. So I hope to see you again soon. Just stay tuned. It may not be far from this time. Thank you once again. GG. Thank you. And then the 5K fashion store. It was nice having you. Thank you for stopping by. So if you are someone just joining in, just watching for the first time, you can kindly subscribe so that you can keep in touch after now. Thank you. Bye for now.